yourself half Hispanic. You're not supposed to be Hispanic at all, Bobby. You got a Schindler last name and you don't speak Spanish. So you
Yeah,
don't have
well,
any Hispanic bona fides, do you?
no, other than Cerezo and Hesekiel and Elvira as grandparents.
There you go. There you go. You got the background.
So if I was Emilio Estevez and went with the other name, then I'd have legit. I look more
Yeah,
Hispanic than Charlie Sheen does.
this is true.
That's true.
This is true. All right, so we are good on Instagram, we're good on YouTube, and we very much don't take ourselves too seriously,
Awesome.
Andres. So you'll find this to be relatively lighthearted and fun. I will start the Facebook feed, which is our main. We got recording going.
Awesome.
Once I can confirm that's up and running, I will say I just had a strange what was it, the Truman Show, the whole good morning, good afternoon,
Yep.
and good night. I just had that whole thing kick into my mind there for a second. But good afternoon as we record, because it is Thursday afternoon, sometime in November. So we'll see when we actually get this published. But we like to go live, so everybody paying attention, both of you, can watch, as we have Andres Robelo here with us, and he is the CEO and founder, not co-founder, just founder. Was it? It was just you.
Just
Okay,
founder.
just you.
Yep.
I like to be co-founder. That way, it's not all my fault, right? But founder and CEO of Play by Point, and we used to know you as Play by Court.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been around since 2016 or so, and I'll go through a lot of that in the intro.
Yep.
And what I want to do is start today by saying hello to Andres, Bobby Schindler, as always, with us as the color man. And we will ask Andres to tell us a little bit about yourself and give me a quick who you are. Give me that sum it up kind of thing to how you came to be where you are, from the little origin story, I guess, of yourself, and then Play by Point. So who are you and why do we care?
Awesome. Awesome. No, thank you so much for having me. So my name is Andres, right? Originally born in Miami, but grew up in Nicaragua, so Latin America or Central America in this case. How it relates to you guys, been a tennis player my whole life. So obviously tennis has always been in my bloods. It's created a lot of opportunities for me in terms of friendships, relationships, fitness, all that. So it's always been a part, and I'll start with that way just because it's related to how we got to Play by Point. And once I graduated high school, I went to college in the US, played D3 tennis, right? Nothing too good per se in that case, but had fun. Always kept kind of my tennis blood in there. After that, I went to a small liberal arts school in Pennsylvania, and then I transferred to the University of Miami, right? My focus was never around technology. It was more oriented in finance. I worked for, a private wealth management firm. Then when I did that, I was still in college, and, I said, I don't want to do finance. That's something that I'm not too passionate about. I feel like I'm not producing anything, so I need to go into operations. And that led me to my first job out of college, which was in an operations role in a restaurant industry, right? And part of the training is that we had to spend the first 6 to 8 months at the actual restaurant handling the whole operation, right? And I'm saying this because that was my first interaction with the point of sale system, which is what we are today, right? And that experience of being on a day-to-day, learning how this little computer was not essential, but critical to the quality of the customer service and customer care, and most importantly, the experience of the staff, right? And how a bad designed product could really make your life miserable or enjoyable, right? Per se in that case. So that began kind of my, kind of what planted the seed. And there's always been an affinity. This was 2012. And, technology, I've always loved technology, always been passionate about it. And after that, I took a job at more in an investing role in technology. And when I was living in Miami, I couldn't get a court, right? I was trying to book a court, not even book a court. I was trying to go play, right? And whenever I would just try to find a court, I would have to go in there, usually as a lot of, at public parks, per se in that case, and we'd have to wait per se in that case, right? So I would get out of work at 7 or 6:30, change, run, drive. I would get to the court and I wouldn't play until 9, right? And that happened over enough times that I stopped playing tennis, right? It's like, look, I don't have, I'm not saying I don't have time for this, but it's very, very cumbersome in that case. And I stopped playing tennis for about 3 years. And then, it's on and off, right? I used to play 3 times a week, et cetera. And then, I kind of stopped that cadence per se in that case. And that kind of led to the, not the light bulb moment, because it doesn't come that way, but it came to, look, sport I love, half of my friendships are through tennis. Growing up, it kept me physically active, helped me deal with a lot of life day, when you're in a match and you're down a set, you need to come back. So again, there's a lot of analogies that even being as an entrepreneur, a solo entrepreneur, right? Most importantly, I've been able to draw from, right? Where, as you guys know, right, the physical part of tennis is obviously important, but the mental is really what takes you across, from being good to great, per se in that case. So with that passion and all those analogies in mind, I said, you know what, let me come up with something. We think there's an opportunity here. This was 2015, per se in that case. Uber was coming up, Airbnb was coming up. I could pay with my parking on my phone. And I'm like, guys, what's, like, why can't I just book my court? It's simple. Like it's that simple. And obviously I knew nothing about the business, right? So, and that was kind of the biggest revelation. I knew nothing. And I started that process and I made 2 big mistakes. One is I chose my first, I looked how I was going to build this, right? So I went out, I looked for a team, and we set out to build what they call an MVP. Let me build something based, but before I go out and build it, let me get the first client, right? Let me get the first customer, because if not, I'm not going to build something and then they're going to come. That it doesn't work that way. So little did I know, I chose my first customer to be a city, right? Again, I used to live by or work by Coral Gables. So I got city of Coral Gables. There's Biltmore, Salvador Park, where the Junior Orange Bowl is held. And I spent 8 months going to the commissioners, telling them I'm here advocating for us tennis players, that we need a technology solution to just make the booking experience better. So after, I would, wake up early, be at 7 a.m. at the commissioner's office and trying to get a meeting with all 4 of them, try to convince them. Spent 8 months. And finally, one commissioner told me, let me get you a meeting with the tennis director and IT. And that was kind of the beginning of this process. And then from there, it was another 6 months trying to convince IT why they should do it. We told them, guys, it's going to be free. Right now, when you go to the club and people, we're 2023. And in 2016, and if obviously you guys know how things used to be run, but the way they were run at this park, and that was prevalent across most tennis clubs, right? Not all of them, because the technology wasn't there yet. Everyone would call in at 7 a.m. They would leave a voicemail because they're not answering at 7 a.m. Then all the lines came up. Then the lady that worked there, right? That the front desk staff that are dear to all our hearts, because they're the heart of the operation, right? We know them. They become our friends and they're part of the experience. They come in there, they spend 2 hours listening to the voicemail, putting it on a piece of paper. Once it fills up, they start building the queue and go on and so forth, right? So if you cancel, so then that's all that problem. Then that was, hey guys, let me help you, right? And that began kind of our journey. And that was how a fun fact, playbycourt was born. Okay, so we've had 3 name changes or 2 name changes in our history. So that's how playbycourt came to be. And we launched in January of 2017 with the help of, the city of Coral Gables. I'll do a mention, Robert Gomez over at the Biltmore in Salvador, and they bet on us, right? They gave us that trust to go in there and try to help out the tennis community, and the whole spirit and the birth of I'll start with the idea, but of the company now is we want to enrich people's everyday's lives, right? Whether it's be the player, the staff, or everyone that touches our product. And at that time it was, we want to keep the sport alive, right? The sport that has given all of us, and I assume people that are in the industry were here because there is a passion for the sport, and it has given us opportunity, and it's something that just, goes through your blood. So, from the first time they put a racket on you. So the whole ethos was, we want to expand the playing opportunities, right? We want more people to go on court, make it a better experience. And our bet was that through easier technology, we could do our small part. And I'll end kind of this segment with that. Our small part is just one piece of a larger equation of what it takes to build a successful tennis club, tennis program that you guys, I'm sure, have covered through your podcast with other speakers. So we just play a small part in it. We think obviously very important, but we just do, we're just the assistant coach, if you want to call it that way, in that case.
All right, well, I'm good. Bobby, thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
I want to know what was in the water in 2015 that everybody got the same idea at the same time. I guess it was
and
the
it's funny because Court Reserve came to be in that same time.
Yeah.
Sports, which you were involved in, and Waleed, and great people. We have great relationships with them. And really the OGs, as I call it, used to be Tennis Bookings, which is no longer with us. I'll call it that way, with Paul. He did a great job as well. Then you had a couple other players that you probably knew, right? That were doing it from a long time. But I think what changed in 2015 or 2016 was you had a targeted effort to, instead of building, a developer trying to build a homemade solution, someone trying to, I'm not going to say build a business, but try to take it to more clubs at a higher scale. And I don't know what happened in that year. There's a couple theories across ideas, that ideas are not born within the person, but that they're flying around, and you can catch them, per se, in that case. So maybe that's the theory we can abide by. But I think there was a big need, and
I would say it's Stripe showed up. When Stripe became a thing, when we could take payments easily and people could put together a website, because we had Reserve My Court for 20 years. I mean, he was ahead of the curve on that one, with just a simple click a button, get it done, no bells and whistles, get us started. But when Stripe showed up and we started being able to implement taking the payments, I think we were able to figure out how to monetize these things. So there was some incentive to get into the industry.
Yeah. Tennis Source was another one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we had 3 of them here in Atlanta coming out of Georgia Tech. We had like 3 different groups come out doing something very similar.
Yeah, that's true.
So and here's my favorite leading question in this concept, Andres, which is, why are you special? So you say you're a small piece, and we talk to everybody about it, and everybody says, okay, well, here's what we do. And one of the things Bobby and I have realized of our combined millions of years of experience here is realizing that not every club's the same, and there is no system that's just going to be for everyone. You've got to find the right club. You got to find the right facility that fits what you're offering, as opposed to just blanketing and saying, why isn't everybody using my system, and changing their business model to the way we do things? Yeah. So what's yours? What's your target? Who specifically are you helping?
Great question. So I'll continue the story that I was telling you that ties into that. So we came in, and I think everyone had this similar situation where, the idea is, look, I'm going to do a booking system and it's going to work for everyone, right? Same thing as all these things. And I said before, little did I know, I had no knowledge on the industry, right? So it was, when people ask me why we started this, and the answer I always give, I was naive. That's it. plain and simple. I was naive. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So we launched in 2017, and everything we thought how the club operated was wrong, right? So we're, oh my God, we thought you did this way. No, it's this way. And then that was a big revelation at the beginning, but we took it from a point of view that we were in no hurry. We really wanted to understand what the club was going through, what the staff was going through on a day-to-day. I would go to the club every morning to really understand what the folks managing these clubs were going through on a day-to-day basis, right? And also that came to the why, especially in that case. Why wasn't there a good system that everyone can have? And the reason is that bookings, right? And that was our not wrong approach, but that was part of the learning. And as you guys know, it's just a small component of the tennis business at the clubs. You got lessons, you got junior programs, you got the pro shop, you got memberships, you got a bunch of other stuff that tie it in, right? And bookings, revenue-wise, is very small, right? So why hasn't there been a solution for that? Because there's more important stuff, right? Per se in that case. So part of our biggest revelation in the beginning was, look, all these clubs, the problem is not bookings. The problem is that all these clubs are using a golf software to manage their tennis operation, a spa software to manage their operations, a yoga software, a government software. So then we made a pivot back then very consciously to change from being a booking system to being a management and point of sale solution, right? That yes, it does include bookings. Yes, it does include all the things that you need, right, to interact. And that was the first revelation. The second one was I was laser focused on building for that customer. I thought that everyone was the same. And then I got my second customer. And then I go to my other customer in Doral. My God, these guys are doing everything different. What is this? Nothing that I did here is the same here. Okay, well, I got to go set it up the way they do it here. Perfect. Boom. And everything we did from day one, we built our technology in a way that it's customizable to each individual club, right? And we started learning that in our pitch till this day is every club is different. Every club has its unique way of operating. Every club has its unique set of rules. And the way we built our technology is that it's extremely easy to customize it to your needs. We take care of all setup, we take care of onboarding, and we make sure that the solution fits for your club. A famous phrase that I always say is the software, you shouldn't accommodate your business by the software. It should be the other way around, right? So what we did throughout many years, we had that philosophy and that approach, and we would literally just build that specific need for that customer, because that got me that one customer and that another customer. And that was our journey from 2017 to 2020. We were just trying to build these partnerships with these clubs. And if, Karen at North River Shores had this problem and she did it this way, then we would build it for her at no additional cost and no setup, no commitment, nothing, because we thought that would help eventually the whole ecosystem. So it got to a point that we got to our 100th club or 100, and we had seen so many of these cases already that today we offer, in my opinion, one of the most flexible platforms out there in the market, where we're not telling you how to run your business. The platform adapts to your unique needs, for sure, in that case. And if we don't have them, we'll build it for you, right? And we keep that promise to this day in that case.
So the only way you can do that is to monetize usage rather than monetizing. You're going to monetize the traffic and the activity rather than monetizing the usage, is kind of the way I would put it. Because if you're going to say, okay, I'm going to build it specifically for you, that gets expensive fast from a development point of view. So how are you able to pull off all of this customization? I mean, I'm just picturing 97 different drop downs as to how I'm trying to figure out how this fits into my club.
Great question. We got our technology team is one of the best. right? So everything, the way we structured our software, and that's another piece where we're different. If you look at our software and the player experience and the management experience is completely different from what you have out there in the market. Everything out there from, I'm not going to mention names, they all look the same. They're all the same, right? We made not one key difference, but as one example, our calendar, our courts are on the left and our times are on top. And I'll start there. And just because we think about things differently, right? In terms of how the staff should engage with it. And what that's done is it creates, to your point, how are we different? My claim is I can train your staff in 10 to 15 minutes. Our system is very easy to use, very easy to get them up and running. And that brings it back to my experience that I started earlier over at the restaurant business, that you got people rotating. You don't have time to train your front desk staff. Some days someone's covering one shift. And if they don't know how to use the system, or they gotta take a master's degree to learn it, it's not going to work, right? And I think that's the mistake that a lot of other folks did, that we put a lot of effort into making not only the player side look nice, which is amazing on our end, but the admin side look beautiful. And not only look beautiful, operate in a way. So how did we do it? All that customization. Luckily enough, or I'll call it luck, personally, on that case, right? Where each feature we built brought me the next customer, and the next customer used that feature.
I was just going to interrupt. I was just going to interrupt and point that out as I'm looking through everything, because you're not monetizing the traffic. You're monetizing the feature, which however that works. But you say, okay, hey, I need this feature to do this thing, and you say, sure, I'll build it because some other club is going to need it, and I'm going to add it to that list, and they're going to pay for the advanced version or the maximum version or whatever, because they're going to need that feature too.
Correct. And also, look, the way I look at it is, we're lucky enough to get that valuable feedback, right? Where clubs are collaborating with us and telling us, look, Andres, these are my needs. I need this. This is my pain point.
Pain point. That's Bobby's phrase. Like, find their pain point. We can help.
Yep. And that's what really, that's why I didn't even look like it was expensive. We were learning from them. I go back to the point, we knew nothing. Right. I thought, and I think this is a mistake that a lot of people from the outside say. And even when I talk to my non-tennis or people that aren't in the racket sports industry, managing a racket sports center, it's easy. Right. I think that's kind of the outside, and little do they know the intricacies of the job, of the operations, the challenges, not only on court, right? That's a whole nother dimension, but also off court. Right. And I think for us, what makes us different is that we live, breathe, and understand the pain point, to Bobby's point, of the operator, right? So we've built a wonderful, great solution. In my opinion, it's to have someone invest. You have an R&D team, right? A group of scientists, if you want to put it that way, making this industry better, right? And that's the way we look at it. If we can make operations and what I said before, if we can make the operations clean and people are making money and they're efficient, we can then take care of the rest, right? The other problems that we have in the industry in that case.
And I think Bobby is going to agree with this, so I'm going to let him talk about it for a second. But we talk amongst ourselves. I like using the word amongst. It's just fun. Amongst ourselves about the fact that we've got the same old people running tennis. And when some young person comes out of LA and they've got a new app that's going to fix everything, the arrogance of that, and everybody says, no, not going to happen. But Bobby mentions all the time, Bobby, you talk about needing fresh eyes. Get somebody who doesn't know how to run a tennis club or hasn't been doing it for thousands of years to come in and say, well, wait, it's just like this other thing. Why don't we just do it this way?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a lot of interesting. I think that's part of the 2016 proliferation. Everybody was looking at book a table. It was starting to come around all about on other aspects of life. Why isn't it in tennis? The fascinating part, and I love what you're saying, Andres, obviously you survived, and you said it out loud, mistakes. that's a difficulty for a small company. So you talked about the collaborate, was the development and the financing done by the city, the government, or, because we're talking money here. That's the hard part with any startup, is being able to survive early misjudgments. We wouldn't call them mistakes, because I remember when I spoke to courts and they were like, God, I really wish we would have spoke to you 2 months ago before, we came up with this idea. And I was like, well, you're coming to Atlanta, whole different ballpark, because we're HOA driven. We're not the traditional clubs. You got a lot of people playing tennis, but most of them are playing out in neighborhoods. If you're not going to make a living off of the 5 clubs in Atlanta, like you said, that aren't going to use the software already provided by golf, or make it affordable where they can switch. So, how did you survive early on from a financial standpoint while you're going through this journey?
Great question. Let me start with the first comment that you made. There's all these young guys trying to come up with the flashy product, and the few of us that survived are the ones that were humble enough to realize that the most important thing is listening to the customer, right? And not trying to impose our will or our vision onto them, right? And I think that's something that, today there's few players, right? And I think the ones that guided their product and their development through that lens are still here today, right? And
I love my friend, but you're right. He got stuck on a path and he couldn't get off of it.
Exactly. So something that we did is, I always knew that as long as we're here trying to solve the club's need, right? And that's something I go back to. The player, yes, they are important, right? And we can build all these fancy, and everyone was going after the player, for example, in that case. And we said, no, first we gotta, and I go back to, first we gotta digitize the clubs. Yeah. Then we can take care of the rest. And that was our mission, to digitize the industry, right? And how would we do it? By capturing 100% of everything that goes on at the club, right? So again, covering not only court reservations, going back, lessons, lesson packages, academies, and then you got junior signups, and you got junior camps, then you got juniors that they do 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week. And I can go on and on and on about all these things, right? Some clubs have a lottery system that, on HOAs. So again, all these things that we were completing, really, you need to tie in the whole ecosystem, right? It's a long time to build that out, right? So it's 7 years. And that's why when someone tries to come in today's world, in today's market, and they say it's easy, a booking system, I wish them luck, right? Just because of that. So that's on that side, right? So I think the ones that were focused on helping the clubs, we're still here, for sure, in that case. In terms of the financing, no, we gave our first pilot for free, right? So a lot of the initial, we never went out and raised outside money. This was, I said, look, I got one of my CTO, right? We worked together since day one, and he's still with us. And we kept a lean team, right? At the beginning, as we were developing the product, great technology person, a partner in the business. And the first 3 years, I was working full time, right? So I was working my full-time job. I would go from 6 a.m. to 8:30 to the court, which is already active, then go to work, lunch, go back to the club, learn more, and go back to work, nights, boom. And we were self-funding the whole operation for a very long time, for sure, in that case. And I think in hindsight, if we would have gone, and I came from a finance and investing background, and I knew that if you raised outside capital, you were just going to burn out because the scalability wasn't there, right? I learned early on that, every club was different. So how are you going to sell an idea that I was going to be in 1,000 clubs if it was difficult, right? So what we made, and going back to your point, on the business model, we kept it simple, right? Because we saw everyone trying to do, hey, let me charge a percentage of the revenue, of the fee, and pros, and justifiably so. You don't like getting another tax, right, on top of your business. So we kept it simple, right? And it's a SaaS tool, software as a service. You pay a monthly fee depending on the products you're looking for, and that's it, right? We keep it simple in that case, and that was our business model, because our first goal is to digitize the industry, right? In that case, so get is more. Obviously it took us a long time to customize everything, and we're still not there yet, by the way, right? There's still things that pop up here and there, less now, but there's still things that we get at a random club that does things differently. But we just held on, right? And what I say in entrepreneurship is, there is no failure. There's just when you give up, right? So and you do everything to keep it alive. So and that was their journey, right? Thankfully, obviously I remember my first 50 customers, right? Because those, 100, 200, 300, whatever dollars they paid us a month, that kept us going, right? Even at very lean, but that's why I still speak to them today, right? We still support them, and that's, those are the true heroes of our journey, right? For sure, in that case.
When we find not everybody wants to be first. So when you come in and say, hey, I got an idea that's going to help you, especially in this industry. One of our first podcast episodes was titled, "You Still Use a Pencil?"
Yeah.
And that's just insane to me, but we still have it. And it's probably going to be a really long time before pencils go away. But changing the culture a little bit is where everybody was in 2016, and maybe that 2017 timeframe where everybody was a little more, maybe not everybody, many were more susceptible to the idea of digitizing and saying, you know what? Yeah, we could probably modernize a little bit and stop using Lotus Notes. We could hopefully update a little bit.
Yeah, by the way, we've never done sales. Everything has been word of mouth, all inbound. And I gave up on that at the first 2 years, because I would drive all across Florida, knocking on clubs' doors, tell them, hey, with the same pitch, right? We're using pen and paper, and you have no idea how many no's, right? And just people, they didn't get it, right? So I said, you know what? Not that we just kind of turned back, but I said, look, I'm going to focus on the people that see the value. I'm not here to change people's minds, right? And that's, I gave up on that tennis pro, right? I'm not going to here to try to convince them on that, because then he needs to go to his board and then convince. And then I'm like, okay, the people that see the value, then we hold you dearly, and we appreciate you, and we'll support you with all our efforts, per se, in that case. And we just start to focus on the clubs that matter in that case, and really be myopic in the sense that we need to build the best solution. And that was our mission. We weren't thinking about, I need to get this club, that club. Let's just keep making the best product. And we're taking a leap of faith that that ultimately gets us to the finish line.
Bobby's got the same feature for his coaching business. He's secretly the best coach in the area, but nobody knows. He doesn't tell anybody. He just keeps it to himself. When people figure it out, all of a sudden it's just all incoming. So Andres, what's your footprint here? That's a fun. What's your footprint in Atlanta? How do I ask that question? What kind of corporate buzzword can I throw in to ask? How many clubs you got here? Who are you working with?
So look, we work with all the city of Atlanta locations. I forget the names, to be honest, but Piedmont.
We do too.
We know them all. Piedmont, Bitsy.
Yeah, all those.
Chastain.
And then we got some HOAs, country clubs. I mentioned, Dunwoody's one we just got, but I'll share that list after, I tell you, because we, thankfully in the past 2 years, obviously our growth has accelerated immensely. And, I think our footprint today in the company, we're, across all 50 states, Canada, Latin America, Asia, Philippines, Dubai, Hong Kong, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Hawaii. So again, our footprint has expanded. So I need to go look at my notes now when, to get kind of certain geographic area. We keep that obviously on a tight tight ship per se on that case, because again, we just focus on the club, right? So we're not a marketplace. Every club is unique. Every club has their own way of working their operation, and that's how we roll.
Interesting. So the city of Atlanta, you have all of those, or that's not a piecemeal thing? Like you went to the city of Atlanta and said, "Hey, we're great, use us," and they said, "Great, have all our clubs."
And well, not like they came to us.
The short version.
I'll get the short version. Maybe so if Bobby was in, so the backstory there. Yeah, so the backstory, the true backstory there is Courts had those clubs. They got acquired in 2021, or they got, whatever they got done. And then the new acquiree didn't have a solution for all these clubs. So then when they started looking around, hey, you don't have a point of sale, we got to use something. And we just picked up all those clubs per se in that case. So really from the Courts acquisition, we picked up half, right? Or give or take, or a little bit more from all the clubs that were left stranded, right? In that case. And the same thing happened. Yeah.
No, and I agree. And that, to me, that's my next question is, where do you see the future of this? Because the funny part about technology is it takes a long time for people to jump on the wagon. And then once they're on it, well, what else are you going to do for me? How do you keep up? What do you foresee, in your mind, the future? Because I always looked at this, and one thing I pushed and what we try to do with our website, I loved the open concept of Courts, the ability for you to see the entire area and the sharing of drills, and just an open source where tennis players could find other tennis players type thing. But I also looked at it from a director's perspective. I want something that's going to help me facilitate my communication with my members, make it easier, where if I do a drill, I wanted to, incorporate text messaging right into it. And, once they got on the list of, well, yeah, that's on our list, but it's not number one on our list. Where do you foresee what features you're going to add? And I apologize, I've just been looking at you. What is the TV pricing? That has me. What is that? What do you offer as that? That sounds pretty flashy.
No, so the TV is, you can display your court sheet on a TV monitor, right?
Oh, so because we tried to do that, and we had to get an outside software provider, and he turned out to be a bomb. And so I have a TV sitting, so I would love to be able to do that again.
Yeah,
I have a TV sitting in my window that does nothing.
Yeah, no, your court sheet, we send you a Fire Stick, you plug it in, and then it's going to show your whole court sheet right on the TV screen. And it rotates. It's not it's not a copy of the court sheet. It just keeps a 4-hour time frame, or you can choose the time frame. And as the day goes by, your court sheet shifts over automatically.
I found your next name change is Court Guide.
Court Guide.
Because you're basically what you're describing, I'm absolutely picturing what it looks like on those guides on the television where it scrolls because you've moved the courts and the time and it moves. That's like a TV guide, right?
Yep, I hear you.
That's a great way to view it. I like that.
Yeah.
Now, do you with that? And I love that idea again. Would you? Because the other thing I always try to incorporate, how do you make it for the neighborhoods, because that's more of what we're doing here in Atlanta, go to them and say, yeah, look, this sounds like an expense. It's $1,200. Let's say my current subdivision, it's got 16 courts. We were with Courts on the family rate. And then we started looking around, and Court Reserve, by the time we added anywhere near the amount of features that we had similar, the price was astronomical. So then you take a step back and you go to something local that you hope over time gets to where you had it. So, balancing for the club, the guys like me, how could you put an ad on that rotating court sheet where I could go to local neighborhoods and say, hey, you're going to be on this for $50, that I can go to my HOA committee and say, look, it's going to cost us $1,500, but I can make $750 of it back, type thing.
Yeah. So let me answer your 2 questions or a couple questions before that.
I've been 3, who knows?
Yeah. So on the open concept for the player, look, the reality is that the club access is really a problem in the United States, right? Where, yeah, we have all these facilities, but half of them, or not even half, a third, I don't know what the actual statistic is, but you can't access. You can't just go in and play, right? So to create an open model, it's hard to do, right? The supply dynamics are not in there. The incentives are not in there. Why would an HOA allow someone from the outside to go in? So there's a lot of barriers that it just doesn't make sense, right? So to that question, I think that's a mute point, at least from our opinion. So we focused at the club level, right, where every club or every court, per se in that case, is a community, right? And at the end of the day, tennis, yeah, booking is just a tool, right, to get on the court. But at the end of the day, it's, why do we play tennis? There's a loneliness epidemic in this country. We want relationships, we want to go in there, get interactions. If I'm locked into my office all day, doesn't bring, too much enjoyment. So that's part of, we do this because it's a hobby, right? It's a sport. And I think that's the number one component we should always keep in mind, right? And the pro is central to that, as you know, right? The pro in getting the ladies leagues up and running, the ladies clinics, getting the guys that book and connecting them with what used to be a sheet on the wall and people writing their names with their levels. So what the future holds on the software side, and I'll kind of answer that question first. And what I tell people is, first, we're trying to figure out how to run these things, right? We had all these operations. We're trying to see how we can, handle clinics, handle wait lists, handle the bookings, the rules, and all that. And then the next phase in the future is, how do we reduce the friction of the heart of the club, which is the director, to make those interactions easily, right? So I think doing all the social pieces is going to be critical, right? Building leagues, that's within the app. That's easy to do. Tournaments, sign up, a community chat, right, where people can join and can post, and all those aspects around that level, per se, on that case. So that's where we're going towards to. And then the other piece that I tell all my clients is, look, the booking is just the utility, right? When I never describe myself as a booking platform, we're a commerce platform, right? When you look at our booking system, the way we approach it, and we'll send some follow-up material after the podcast so you can see, we're different in the case that when you look at every other system, and I go back to that point, how does the booking journey start? And that's a question for both of you.
I log in. Like, how far back you go?
So what are they looking at? What are they looking at first?
I'm looking at a monitor, a phone, or a computer,
and a court sheet, right?
Yeah.
You look the whole court
I went
sheet.
too far back. Sorry.
Yeah. So you're looking at the whole court sheet. That's my biggest critique of, not critique, but in general. Why does a person want to look at the whole court sheet? No, right? You need to show them what they want. So the way we interact with our customers is they go in and download our app and really take it for a spin. And you can see that what we're building is a commerce platform where you can put banner ads, to your point, right? We got banner ads on our format. You can upsell them. You can charge partners for it. You have a shop section where you can put your pro shop items on the app. People can buy them online and pick up on site. We got our game match feature where you can create those matches, post them on a board. People can join it. That inspiration came from way back when on the paper sheets that were posted on every tennis shop, right? Here's my name and my level is when I want to play. Same concept, right? So, again, and the way when we look at it in steps, first, we got to take care of business. Now we're going to take care of the player, and not the player as a general, the club player, right? The player that belongs to their club, because that's another thing, right? From the pro perspective, you spent a lot of time, building your community, right? These are your customers in some way. These are your students. These are your leagues, and not that it's not in. I'm not saying it's not in your best interest, but you want to try to create loyalty to the club, right? Or to that pro. So that's kind of what we're seeing. And then the last piece to that point is we got all this data. Now we need to make it actionable, right? So, and all tennis directors can relate. Good thing we haven't had a demand problem historically, right? And I think that's what's really led to us getting lazy. And I'll put us in the tennis as a tennis industry, because we haven't had a demand problem. That's what people from the outside think. There's not a demand problem, right? Where all clubs are packed, and you can find all these, what I call them, all the addicts coming in there and playing every day. And we need to do the reverse of demand. We got to limit them in that case. So what we're guiding towards is building that community, especially in that case, right? And trying to make it better. So, and the last piece is, how do we make all that information actionable? Bobby came in for the first time, send them a little text, automated text. Hey, Bobby, thanks for coming in today. Why don't you come in and stop by our clinic next time? So that's where we think the future is going. So we can become smarter. We can, instead of, I remember my coach used to have a pad, all his clients' names, right? And all his lessons. So that we're digitizing all aspect of it. So I think that's where we're going. And these are different, if it existed, if we knew what it looked like, someone would be doing it already, right? So, and I think you can only discover that solution through an iterative process, per se, in that case.
And it's interesting to me hear you talking. It goes back to the difference between the rest of the country and Atlanta. We have so many leagues. We have, all that is built. We are the other side of what you're talking about. We have a bunch of middle-aged folks looking to find a community outside of, as you get older, finding that thing that you share, that you build off of. When you're a kid, you have your sports, you have your school, various stages of your life. As you get older, what is the commonality? Tennis has became a commonality throughout. Subdivisions are built in Atlanta with at least 2 tennis courts, a situated bathroom, and country club caliber lights, so you can get certified to play Alta. So we're so different in so many ways, because I always felt, again, something I pushed to Waleed was the pros themselves. We have so many independent pros that should be using a system to legitimize themselves, that look at it and are afraid of it because they're not a club, or they don't feel like. Could you set something up for a guy who's at 5? I mean, Sean has his business. He goes to several different neighborhoods. Could you set something up Sean specific to show his clients, okay, Sean's at Windermere on Wednesdays, he's here on Fridays? Are you that customizable?
No. Right. Okay. So not even customizable, but I'll go back to look, the focus, right? So you got to pick your battles, especially on that case. And if you really want to be the best, right, which is our intent, you got to focus you're going to be the best in, right? And then slowly we'll tackle other areas. But, managing leagues, it's a whole different animal, right? Managing the independent pros operational process, it's a whole different journey, right? And all these other steps that happen offline, require a lot of focus and effort and time and investment to really come up with a good solution, right? I'm not saying it can't be done, but at least that's our perspective, right? We gotta, you gotta focus on one thing, be the best, and then we can start tackling the other items one at one, right? So that's kind of how I see it. So for that player that you mentioned, that 5-0, again, we focus on the club, right? And I go back to that. That is our North Star. Mm-hmm. Maybe down the road, we will build solutions around that. But for now, we got more wood to chop up, per se, on that case.
Oh, understanding that. But again, that's what makes Atlanta so unique, and difficult for you guys coming in, because it's just a different market. We are not club based. There might be 2, 3 standalone tennis only clubs in the entire city.
But you got courts, right? You got individual facilities, and they should be run by a scheduling platform in order to organize all these events going on.
Well, and one thing I think that hopefully you learned early on, because it was always funny, dealing with municipalities was always the biggest pain in the neck alive because of the
Yep.
bureaucracy. But that's where you got your teeth sharpened. So hopefully, that could be a big thing, because you're right. I mean, certainly where I live in Forsyth County, some of the most spectacular parks you'll find anywhere, and they're not managed. It's drive up and see, because it's, again, it's just different. Most people don't play out of parks because they can play in their neighborhood. So the parks are dramatically underutilized. And like I said, we focus on Atlanta. So I'd like to hear what other people are doing, just to see what is transferable. What can we, what can we learn from you and what you're doing? And I think what you're saying is absolutely right. Stay with, show me the money is always a good way, or follow the money is always a good indicator of where people's interests are. That where they're using it, that's where their interest is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's why, yeah, it's a different, different problem, not a problem to solve, but you got free tools out there, right? And what's been proven in the market is that kind of club, they'll just buy from my dear friend from Hold My Court is one, right? It's a free solution. It's got ads. I'm not saying it's very clunky, very old school, but it works. It works, and that's okay, right? That's okay. I think it hurts the community at large because we're not organizing ourselves. But that's why we focus on the clubs that have a deep need for this solution, for sure, in that case.
Well, in the court system that is free, and we got the HOAs that are building their own. They're like, oh, we got a guy over there in the house that can build us one real quick. And I take that as a good step, because at some point they're going to realize, okay, we've got a crappy product. Bob built it for us. We really appreciate you, Bob, but we got to call Andres. Like, we got to get this. But what it did was it got him off the pencil. It got him out of that manually writing things down and the phone calls. And it's one step closer to where we want the industry to be, which is automated and digitized for you.
Yeah. The biggest shift as well, and just taking a step back, is COVID. Yeah. Right. So in 2020, prior to 2020, and we forget right now, it's only been 3 years, but prior to that, I was telling why you should use a technology solution. And then that kind of accelerated the curve 5 years, right? Where my discussion changed, right? Why are you better? Why should I use you? Right, per se, in that case. So I think COVID did bring a lot of that demand forward, because there was no option. They had to. And then once they implemented it, then a lot of people kept it, per se, in that case. So I think that was a net positive for us. And also made the, certain parts of the industry realize that it could really save you a lot of time.
Well, yeah, and $200 a month is a lot cheaper than hiring somebody to work the front desk. When the front desk is an app on your phone, you can do a lot more.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, Bobby, I want to ask him the King of Tennis question, because you pushed a little bit asking for something from the future, and he points out that he does not have that kind of hubris. I'm going to ask him King of Tennis anyway. Bobby, you got anything else you want to talk to him about before we go there?
No, I look forward to following up on a club basis, Andreas.
Awesome. No, I would love to.
Bobby's always looking for the next best thing. That might be you. We'll see.
I think we are.
Well, you're biased. We know that. So Andres, our King of Tennis question, which hopefully is coming. We ask everybody we talk to except Patricia Jensen. I think she was the only one we didn't ask, because that's obvious. She's just going ahead and doing it. But if you were king of tennis, and whether it's Miami, Florida, the world, the universe, whatever it is, if you were king of tennis and could change something or add something, or even some people were out there trying to subtract some things from the tennis world, is there anything you would do or change?
Yeah, so the answer is yes, right? In preparation of the question, and my answer is going to be biased, right? Obviously, so I need to come from the perspective of the solution I'm trying to solve. But to me, what I would change is accessibility, right? I think in the consumer market, there's a lot of confusion as to how do I approach the sport today. And we need to start bringing all those barriers down to make it easy and accessible. Obviously, the USTA has done a lot of efforts in that avenue, but I think it needs to start from a grassroots perspective, right? From the individual pro. And I think technology will play a small part of it, in the sense that, it's 2023, everyone has a phone in their hand. And the moment that you make me call to go do a clinic, or you make me drive to the park, you've lost me as a customer, because I'm going to go to Orange Theory or whatever gym boutique out there that's popping up. So I think as an industry of whole, and from the pros operating these individual sites, we need to accelerate the accessibility at the sport, from awareness, education, ease of purchase, and getting them in the door, right? Because one thing I do believe is that once you get someone in the door and you give them a good treatment, it's a great sport. That's why we're all here. So that's what I would focus my efforts in ways to make it more accessible, easy to join, easy to play, and not create too many territorial wars that you find at the neighborhood level, right? The group that always plays at 7 a.m. and you can't touch them because, they got the special deal with the HOA or with the city, or not with the city, but with the court coordinator and all that. So I think if we can set up a ground level rules across the nation, then I think it'd be net positive. And one thing that I like to advocate is to the tennis people. And I think, and this is going to be my, we're not competing against other tennis coaches or facilities, right? We're competing for time and for fitness activities, right? And the consumer today, or the player today, if it's easier for them to go to a Pilates class or a gym class or a gym studio, we're competing against that today. And that's something I think the industry hasn't caught on. And now you have two big waves coming to market, which you guys are very familiar with, right? You got the explosion of pickleball, you got padel, you got other racket sports coming to market that I think can work together, right, with tennis. That we gotta, I'm not gonna say defend our turf, but you have to keep it engaging and fun and accessible, because if not, we're gonna see a huge decrease in player participation. And you've already started to see it across the nation, right? You can't hide that. You can't hide that fact, right? Tennis clubs are being converted to pickleball. And I love pickleball, right? So don't get me wrong. I think it's great. But from a tennis point of view, given the question is king of tennis, I think as, tennis directors and pros and industry players, it's a capitalist country, and we need to compete, and we need to really bring people back to the sport, right? I'm bullish on the sport. I think it's been for hundreds of years. I don't think it's going anywhere, but we need to reinvigorate it, right? Because if not, we run the risk, and not an existential risk, but we don't want to become a forgotten sport, per se, in that case. So I would just put that sense of urgency. I might be too catastrophic, but I think that might get us in the industry to really try to make things better, right? Try to get the first person in the door and get them to play, right? So if, at least here in Miami, it's, my wife always asks me, I want to go play tennis. I don't know. I work in the industry. I don't know a single place where I can recommend she start at, right? Where it's easy and they can just go in and play. I don't know. Right. So that's a problem.
See, Bobby, they just don't have tennis courts right next to their house like we do.
And that's another problem. Yeah. And I agree. Right. So again, that's the other problem.
And we run the same issue. I mean, it's always tough getting people. I completely agree with what you're saying. And like you said, I don't look at pickleball as a threat. I look at pickleball as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Take the money that's being created by pickleball to elevate the tennis. Get people programming as far as cameras. I mean, like you said, let's make this thing, grow it by getting the inflush of cash, where you offer more things to people to get them excited. We know people like to watch themselves. Go video. Here's now a videotape lesson is the same cost, because I don't need to make a margin, because I'm making a margin someplace else. I look at, and this is on the heels of Atlanta just lost our tournament again. our
Yep.
250 annual tournaments, it's going away. And I'm reading all the hosannas online from the people that have been involved from day one. I'm like, you've been involved from day one. This is the third time the tournament is left. Don't you think we need somebody other than you as being the messenger of, because you're seeing, like you said, you're selling it as tennis. We're not competing against tennis. We're competing against the movies, swimming, going out to dinner, being a tier 1 city that, just like Miami, we got a lot of options on what to do with our disposable income. And everybody holding on to this idea that tennis, that's what kills this sport. It's a part. You cannot sit different, or you set yourself apart and say, oh, well, you need to play tennis. No.
I agree. And look, I agree with you, right? And my biggest, not critique, but when it takes, as you say at the beginning, a lot of effort to, dedicate your life, right, to a sport, to a solution in the sport. And at least my sentiment being out there and trying to sell is that we were always getting the doorstep, right? And obviously it's a biased approach in the terms of, it's part of building a company, but we felt that it was hard to get support from stakeholders, right? And you know who they are, right? Big organization. We're always competing against them, and we're just doing R&D for the industry, right? And we always, not to have to be watching our backs, but the door was shut on a lot when we're just trying to help the industry, right? So I think that ethos needs to change, right? Whether it be our competitors, right? And that's why we never speak ill of our competitors, right? We love what they're doing, right? And that's how the whole industry should wake up. So I like your introduction at the beginning of starting with that, because that's kind of why we exist, especially in that case. And we tend to forget that it's a hobby. We need to have fun. Right? So
that would be the point. So wait a minute. What you're telling me is your system is better than the USTA's free tennis management software? How could that possibly be?
I didn't say
all
names.
Right, on that note, we should probably hang up now.
I didn't say names, but it's not.
Well, Andres, I appreciate your time. You got anything else? Got anything exciting coming up? Got any scoop? Anything you want to share, or should we?
No. So look, my message to everyone is come check us out. If you haven't heard of us, there's, look us around your local clubs. Maybe we got a club around there. If not, our website is playbycourt.com. Download our app and kind of book a demo, right? And just learn why, right? So no commitment, and you'll see that, why clubs that work with us are really making a difference and are at the cutting edge of the future of racket sports, right? I'll say it that way.
I like it. Well, I appreciate your time, and we will definitely follow up. You said you got some stuff for us, and we'll try to figure out how we can
slice and dice this.
Well, be able to
guys, I apologize. I have to go do my other role, which is chauffeur for my daughter. So I have to leave right now. I'm
Awesome.
running out the door. Andres, I look forward to talking to you real soon about Windermere.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Thank you, sir. You guys have a great day.
You too.
I was going to mute him anyway.
Awesome.
But yeah, I appreciate the time, and we will follow up, because we got to find out kind of where you are and where you fit, and see how Gotennis can help spread the word.
Awesome. No, thank you for your time. I always enjoy sharing our story in that case.
It's fun to talk about the things we care about. And that's and I like your phrase. You use the phrase, you're bullish on the sport. So being bullish on tennis is a good phrase. I might steal that at some point.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right, Andres, I appreciate it. And we will